This is Ann Holmes with my project Dance Until Dawn with my no sewing until you quilted technique. I just wanted to show you a little bit of my progress. I had the top part, the sky, and about half of the tree done, and then I was on hold for a couple of weeks, and my photograph that I had of my dancers, I took a picture of some sculpture that was downtown Asheville, but when I took the photograph, it was too much in the sunlight, and so I just took a class in Photoshop Elements at our North Carolina Quilt Symposium, and I learned how to highlight the shadows. My original photograph was too dark. I couldn't see what was going on with their feet because of the sunlight. But with Photoshop Elements, I could highlight the shadows so I could tell, what was happening with their feet. And then I was able to go back to my trick of taking the clear plastic over my photograph and use a fine tip Sharpie to outline it. So then I had a drawing that I could enlarge. And then I also did the same thing for their hands. I enlarged their hands and that was able to take them up to scale too. So that's a trick that I like to use, and I was happy to learn a little bit of using Photoshop Elements. You can see how I've moved my drawing over to this other side of the table to work on this side of the landscape. But also, I can pick up some of these patterns. I always try to lay them out in order, but I can pick them up and then move this because it's attached to my working drawing, the French views. Everything's going to come together, and I can scoot it forward so that I can reach those pieces easier. Because I like to look at my landscapes directly on, but by attaching your freezer paper to your working drawing or adding those extensions like I showed you, then you can move your project along. You can even fold it up and take it with you if you have to. So I just wanted you to know that in my book, No Sewing Until You Quilt It, there are a couple of landscapes. Project 3 is a spring landscape, and Project 4 is an oriental garden that's made in 3 sections. That's pretty easy to do because you're not working at the whole thing at one time, but you're working on it in 3 separate sections. And then I show you in the directions how to join it like a triptych. Hi. I just wanted to show you how to handle these large pieces in our landscape. So what I'm using is a larger cutting mat for my gluing board, and I get a fresh glue stick with a baby wipe in here because you want the glue to be nice and smooth, to go on smoothly. Now this has some inside curves. So what do we do for inside curves? We just clip those. So anything that's a slight inside curve, we're just going to cut it to the paper. Right now I've clipped any inside curve, even if it's just a slight curve, just to the paper. And I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to glue in an outward motion. You always make sure that this freezer paper is firmly attached to the fabric. So if you think it's loose, go ahead and iron it down again, your pattern, to the fabric, because the paper acts as a stabilizer so that we have a nice edge to turn this to. So that's the first gluing, which makes it tacky. And then you just use your fingers to turn it back. Try to follow the paper. So I just start this way and work with my fingers. I'm only gluing where it's touching the last piece that we put down. this landscape, you're working from the background to the foreground. So this is quite easy to do, but these big pieces get a little weird to work with just because of the size. So like I said, your freezer paper must be firmly attached to your fabric, so make sure your iron is warm enough to get it a nice grip on there. So we're just turning that back. That first gluing just made it tacky so it would stay back, and then it's real important to do a finger press. Just finger press that. Now we're going to turn that over and do our second gluing. And this one you can glide along the turn back edge. And you're generous with this glue because that's what's holding the seam allowances together until we get it stitched and quilted after the sandwich is made. All right, so now we're going to place that. And this is where these tick marks or registration marks come in handy, but we also want to make sure that it's coming over here the way it's supposed to meet. Sometimes you have to scoot that over just a little bit. So I just smooth it down with my hands and then take the sealing iron and seal it down. Sometimes the glue, all that glue eases out or smooches out or whatever you want to say of the pattern piece. So every once in a while you can clean your sealing iron, the bottom of it, with a magic eraser after it's cool, after the iron has cooled down. Get rid of some of that extra glue. So there we go. And then you can remove this paper up till here. We want to maintain that edge because we need that for the placement of our figures that we're putting in here. So you just have to, you can tear that so you can see your fabric. And then I'm going to take a big iron once I've built this section and make sure that it's all sealed down. And now I'm going to scoot everything up again. I want this to be on the work table for working. So I'll just slide this up here. Since my French fuse is attached to my working drawing, now I can work on my tabletop again. We're almost finished building the background of our landscape, but now we're getting ready to do the dancers. And so I just wanted to show you that I keep sections of their bodies together. The next thing I'm going to be doing is like the hands and the arms and the legs. So by keeping these sections together, like keep all the hair together until I'm ready to use it, so I'm not afraid that I'm going to lose some pieces. You know, keep their shoe together, his pants together, their hands together. I'm going to get ready to do their hands and feet next. Thank you.